Subscribe to Echo Tales for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. I had never seen anything that big until that morning by the lake. Ava wasn't the kind of girl who chased surprises. She liked her days slow, soft, and safe. Her life was quiet, small-town simple. Wake up, water the garden, work at the flower shop, read old poetry, repeat. Love? That was a chapter she hadn't opened in years, maybe never. But that morning was different. The sky was gray. The kind of gray that makes the world feel heavy, but still. She drove out to her grandmother's cabin near the lake. It was her secret place, the one spot where her thoughts didn't scream. The lake always calmed her. It was like time paused when she was near it. She needed that today. She parked the car, got out, and walked barefoot through the soft grass. The air smelled like wet earth and pine needles. Then, she stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. There, rising from the shallow end of the lake, was something huge. It wasn't a tree. It wasn't a boat. It was like a sculpture, tall, twisted, reaching for the sky like it had something to say. Worn wood, stone, and metal all tangled together, standing silent in the water like it had always been there. But it hadn't. She was sure of it. It hadn't been there yesterday, and Ava had been at this lake nearly every day for weeks. There was no way she would have missed something that big. A small thrill of fear, or maybe wonder, shivered down her spine. Then she saw him. A man, waist deep in the water, standing right beside the sculpture, still as stone, watching her. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there with wet hair falling over his eyes, his hands at his sides like he wasn't sure if he should come closer or vanish. Ava froze. She thought about turning around, walking back to her car, and pretending this never happened. But she didn't. Something pulled her forward. She walked to the edge of the dock, heart beating loud in her chest. "What is that?" she asked, nodding toward the strange sculpture. He didn't answer right away, just looked at it like it meant something only he could understand. Then softly he said, "It's mine." Ava tilted her head. "Did you build that?" He nodded once. That's when she really looked at him. He wasn't young, but he wasn't old either. His face had lines, not from age but from weight, like life had been heavy on him. His eyes were gray-blue, like the sky behind him. Sad eyes. Tired eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Why make something like that?" He glanced at her. "Because I had to." That was all he said. And somehow, it was enough. Ava didn't know this man. Didn't know his name, where he came from, or what kind of person built haunting sculptures in lakes and stood in the water like a ghost. But something inside her stirred. Something that had been asleep for a long, long time. She sat down at the edge of the dock. Just sat there, watching the water ripple around his knees. He stayed where he was, like they both knew not to move too fast. "I come here when I need quiet," she said softly. He looked at her for the first time then. Really looked. So do I. That was the first moment. The start of something strange, something fragile. Something that would change everything. And Ava didn't know it yet. but she had just stepped into the center of the unthinkable. Ava didn't know why she came back the next day. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something deeper, something she couldn't explain. But as the sun dipped low and painted the lake in gold, she was there again. Coffee in hand, heart pounding for no good reason. He was already in the water. Again. Waist deep, bare, arms moving slowly as he added pieces to the strange sculpture. It had grown since yesterday. Now, long arms stretched out toward the sky, like it was reaching for something just out of grasp. She stood there watching for a moment, unsure if she should speak. Then he turned and said, "You came back." Ava blinked. "I guess I did." He walked to the shore. The closer he came, the taller he seemed, like the kind of person who didn't need to raise his voice to be noticed. His clothes were worn, his hands rough, but there was something gentle in his eyes. "You didn't tell me your name," Ava said, trying to sound casual. He gave a faint smile. "Elias." She liked the sound of it. Strong, old, like it belonged in a storybook. "And you?" he asked. "Ava." His eyes changed, just slightly. A flicker of something. "Recognition?" "I know," he said softly. "I remember." Ava's heart paused. "How?" But he didn't answer. He just looked out at the water like it had secrets he wasn't ready to share. He picked up his tools and went back into the lake. "You build these at night?" she asked, stepping closer. "I don't sleep much," he said, still working. "So, I make things." Ava sat on the dock again, sipping her coffee. She didn't press him. She just watched. The way he worked was strange, but beautiful. Every piece of wood or stone had a purpose. Each one was shaped with care, as if he were putting pieces of himself into the sculpture. "It looks sad," she said after a while. He paused, looked up. "It is." She didn't ask why. Instead, she told him about the flower shop, about how she liked things that grow, how her mother used to say broken people were just like wilted plants. You just had to find the right light. Elias listened quietly. That's what she noticed most. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix her words. He just heard them. They sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, "You don't belong here." Ava frowned. "Excuse me?" He didn't say it to insult her. His voice was calm, thoughtful. "This town, this life, it's too small for someone like you." She didn't know how to respond. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had even seen her like that. "And what about you?" she asked. "Do you belong here?" His eyes met hers. "No." And just like that, something connected between them. Something invisible but real. They were two strangers, both stuck between the past and whatever came next, both hiding in a quiet town, pretending they were fine. Ava didn't believe in fate, but she started to wonder if the lake, the sculpture, the timing, if all of it meant something more. When the sky began to darken, she stood. "See you tomorrow?" she asked, unsure why she wanted to so badly. Elias gave a small nod. "If you come, I'll be here." And that was it. No promises. No big goodbyes. But Ava left the lake with her heart beating faster than it had in years. Something had started, and she had no idea where it was going. But she wanted to find out. The next few nights blurred into something quiet and beautiful. Ava kept going back to the lake. It became a rhythm, like breathing. She'd finish work, skip dinner, grab 2 coffees and drive to the cabin. Every time she got there, Elias was already in the water, working like the world might end if he didn't finish his sculpture in time. He barely spoke at first, but Ava didn't mind. She wasn't there for words. She was there because sitting near him felt peaceful, like being next to a storm that didn't want to hurt you. Sometimes he talked about his art, how he didn't plan it, how he just followed his hands and trusted them to know more than his head did. Other times, they sat for hours without saying a thing, listening to the soft waves and the hum of bugs in the tall grass. The sculpture grew taller every night. Now it looked like a giant heart, split down the middle but stitched together with thin, rusted wires. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, honest, raw. It made Ava's chest ache, and she didn't know why. "What is it?" she asked one evening, her voice barely louder than the breeze. Elias didn't look up from his work. "It's what love feels like." Ava swallowed. She didn't reply. How could she? Because she'd never really felt it. She'd dated before, had a few almost relationships, but no one had ever seen her the way Elias did. No one had made silence feel safe. That night, when he finally stepped out of the water, soaked and tired, he sat beside her on the dock for the first time. They didn't touch, just stared out at the lake like it held all the answers. "Why do you really build these?" she asked quietly. He thought for a long time. "Because some things I can't say with words." Ava turned to him. "Like what?" Elias's jaw tensed. His hands were rough, resting on his knees. He didn't speak, but in the silence, she felt it, that heavy pull between them, not just attraction, something deeper. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was longing. Or maybe it was 2 lonely people trying to understand why they kept coming back. Ava looked at the heart-shaped sculpture again. "It's not broken," she said softly, repeating something he once told her. "It just hasn't found the right hands." Elias looked at her, surprised. But again, he said nothing. That was the thing with him. He never rushed. And Ava didn't realize it yet, but being with Elias was slowly changing her. She started listening more, feeling more. The world was louder when he wasn't near, but when she was beside him, even her pain felt gentle. Back at home, the nights felt longer, sleep harder. She'd lay in bed thinking about his hands shaping wood, about his tired eyes and quiet voice, about that sculpture in the lake and how it somehow looked more like her each day. She started writing again, something she hadn't done in years. Just small poems, pieces of feelings, sentences she never said out loud, and every line felt like a message she wanted to give him, but couldn't yet. She didn't know if he felt the same. Did he think about her when she wasn't there? Did he build with her in mind? She didn't know, but she wanted to, and maybe that want, that quiet ache, was how love begins. It started with thunder. Ava woke up to dark skies and heavy clouds, the kind that warned you before they broke open, the kind that felt like something was about to change. She told herself she wouldn't go to the lake that day, Not in a storm, not with lightning in the forecast, and her heart already full of questions. But when the rain began to fall, something inside her pulled harder. Like maybe he'd be there. Like maybe he'd need her. So she went. She didn't even grab an umbrella. Just her keys. Just her heart. By the time she reached the cabin, the sky had opened completely. Rain hit the windshield like it was trying to drown her thoughts. Wind bent the trees. The lake looked wild, choppy, gray, and there he was, Elias, still in the water, still building. He was soaked, shaking, fighting with a tarp that kept blowing off his sculpture. It had grown even more, now taller than both of them. The center had thick ropes tied across it, as if it was being held together by force. "What are you doing?" Ava shouted from the dock. He didn't answer, just kept trying to cover the piece, hands trembling. "Get out of the water. You'll get sick." He looked up at her then, eyes full of something she couldn't name. Not sadness, not anger. Something deeper. Something lost. "I already am," he said. Then he collapsed. Ava didn't think. She ran. Into the cold water, arms around him, dragging him toward shore with all the strength she had. He was heavy, burning hot despite the storm. She half carried, half dragged him into the cabin and got him into bed. Pulled off his soaked shirt. Covered him in blankets. He was burning with fever. His skin was too hot. His breaths too fast. And, in his sleep, he kept whispering something. Her name. Ava. Over and over. Like a prayer. Or a memory. I shouldn't have come back. She sat by his side all night, wiping his face with a wet cloth, listening to the storm rage outside. But nothing was louder than her own heartbeat. Nothing more confusing than the way her name left his lips like a secret. By morning, the storm was gone. So was the fever. Elias woke slowly, eyes glassy and weak. He didn't speak at first, just stared at her, like he wasn't sure she was real. "You scared me," she said softly. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. "Then tell me what you meant when you said you shouldn't have come back." He looked away. Silence stretched. Then, finally, he said, "I was here 10 years ago." Ava blinked. "Here? At the lake?" He nodded. "I fell in love with a girl who read poetry and wore flowers in her hair. She came here every summer. I carved for her. Built for her." Ava's chest tightened. "My sister," she whispered. "Elena." Elias nodded again, slowly this time. "She was light, and I was too dark. When she died, I left. I didn't think I'd ever come back here. I didn't think I could." Ava felt like the ground had vanished beneath her feet. "You knew her, and you never told me?" "I didn't know how, until I saw you. And I saw her in you. But also, not her. You're something else entirely." She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Instead, she just sat there, her hands gripping the edge of the bed. Because now she knew the truth. This man, this mystery wasn't a stranger at all. He was part of her past, part of her pain. And maybe, just maybe, part of what came next. The next day, the world was quieter. But Ava wasn't. Her thoughts were loud enough to drown out the birds, the wind, the soft lapping of the lake. She sat on the cabin steps, knees pulled to her chest, eyes fixed on the sculpture Elias had almost destroyed himself to protect. Elena. Her sister's name hung in the air like a ghost. Now she understood the way Elias looked at her. That flicker of knowing in his eyes. The way he hesitated when she spoke, the way he held back every time she got close. He wasn't just hiding pain, he was hiding her. When Elias stepped outside, he looked different. Tired, yes, but open too, like the storm had knocked something loose in him. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. "I should have told you from the start." Ava didn't speak right away. She wanted to be angry, wanted to push him away, but her heart didn't let her. "Why? Did you come back?" she asked. "After all these years?" Elias looked out at the water. "Because I couldn't forget her. But I couldn't forget you either. You were just a kid back then. But I remembered your laugh. The way you always had dirt on your knees and a book in your hands." Ava felt her throat tighten. "I came back to finish the sculpture I started with Elena. But then I saw you, and everything changed." She stood up, arms folded across her chest. "And now? What do you want now?" He looked at her. Really looked. "I want to stop running." The wind blew gently between them. The space felt full of unsaid things. "I'm not her, Elias. I know, and that's why I'm here." Ava stepped closer without meaning to. Her breath caught. Her skin buzzed. "You say things like that," she whispered, "and then you pull away." "I was afraid," he said. "Of what?" "Of losing someone again. Of loving someone again." They were only inches apart now. She could feel the heat of his skin, the quiet pull between their bodies. Like magnets, drawn by something they couldn't see. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, surprising herself with the truth in her voice. Neither of them moved. Then he reached up, slowly, and touched her cheek. His hand was rough, warm, careful. "You're not her," he whispered. "You're you. And I think I've been waiting for you." And before she could think, before her brain could catch up, he kissed her. Soft, slow, like a secret, like something too fragile to name. The world fell quiet. Even her heartbeat seemed to pause, as if the universe was holding its breath with her. It wasn't a wild kiss. It wasn't rushed. It was the kind of kiss that made promises without words. When they pulled apart, Ava didn't step back. She didn't need to, because the fear she'd carried, the fear that she'd always be second to her sister's memory, was gone. Elias didn't kiss her because she reminded him of Elena. He kissed her because she was Ava, because she was her own story. "I don't know where this goes," she whispered. "Neither do I," he said, "but I want to find out." That night they didn't talk much. They just sat beside each other on the dock, legs swinging, hands gently touching. The sculpture stood tall behind them, no longer just a memory. Now it was something new. Something born from pain, but healed with hope. And Ava, for the first time in years, felt like she wasn't just surviving. She was beginning again. The days that followed felt like they were stolen from a different life, a better one. Ava and Elias fell into a rhythm that felt too perfect to be real. Morning coffee, long walks by the lake, quiet moments where they didn't need to talk because the silence between them had become warm, not heavy. For the first time in years, Ava didn't feel like she was waiting for something. She felt like she'd found something. Or maybe someone. But nothing that good stays untouched. The whispers started in town. Old neighbors. Curious eyes. People who remembered Elias from a decade ago. They remembered Elena, too. They remembered how it ended. How she died in that lake one summer, just after falling in love. And they remembered who she'd loved. Ava heard it in the flower shop. Saw it in their stares, in the pause after his name. She's with him? Does she know? Yes, she knew, and that's what made it harder. Elias wanted to protect her from it. He told her they could leave, go somewhere new, start fresh, but Ava didn't want to run. Not anymore. So she did something she never thought she'd do. She went to the lake, alone, and stared at the sculpture he had built piece by piece, heart by heart. It was almost finished now. The last touches had been added the night before. A smooth wooden bird placed at the center of the heart, wings open, flying forward. It didn't look like grief anymore. It looked like freedom. She stood there, breathing deep, the wind brushing her skin. Then, she picked up a small hammer from the tool bench nearby, and she shattered the base. The sound cracked through the air like thunder. Wood splintered. The sculpture groaned, leaned, and finally fell. Slowly. Like it had been waiting for someone to let it go, Ava dropped the hammer, tears mixing with the wind on her cheeks. She didn't break it out of anger. She broke it because it was time to stop holding on to the past. Elias arrived minutes later, running down the path, breath caught in his throat. "Ava, what did you—" She turned to him, eyes soft, voice steady. "It was beautiful. But it's over." He stared at the wreckage, silent, rain beginning to fall around them. Then he looked at her. "I built it for her," he said. "I know," Ava whispered. "And you needed to. But if we keep living in the shadow of what was, we'll never know what we could be." Elias stepped closer. "And what do you think we could be?" She didn't answer with words. She reached for his hand, placed it over her heart. "Something new," she said. "Something real." He closed his eyes, let out a shaky breath, and then he kissed her again. This time, it wasn't soft. It was full of every silent promise they hadn't spoken. Every fear, every hope, every piece of themselves they were finally ready to give. When they pulled back, the storm had passed, and behind them, the fallen sculpture rested gently on the grass, no longer a wound, but a memory. Ava leaned her head on his shoulder, eyes on the lake. "I did the unthinkable," she said quietly. "What?" "I let go of the past, and I chose us." Elias smiled, and for the first time, his eyes held no ghosts, only her. And just like that, a new story began, not built from what was lost, but from what they were brave enough to find, together.